We have been asking you for your questions on social media at Attacking Third on Twitter and Instagram and live on YouTube if you've dropped them in the comments and the chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you have questions for us, let us know at Attacking Third on socials and ask us because we're here to answer them this segment, Sandra. Let's hope they're all about soccer and not all about your hats and the kits that we get to wear. Question number 1. If you could start your own team, what current player would you want to build your team around?
Oh my goodness. I love stuff like this. Literally any of Triple Espresso, if I'm being frank. And just because I get to watch her up close pretty often, I'm gonna go with Mallory Swanson.
Yeah, I love that pick. That's a good one. For me, it's all about the engine of the team is where you build around. So to me, that's the defensive midi, the 6 position. You have to have someone that can play defense really well, can be an organizer, can be a leader on the pitch, but can also kickstart the attack if and when needed. I'm thinking logically as a GM over here, and I'm going to go with Sam Coffey. She can do everything on both sides of the ball. I'm putting her as my marquee signing for my own team that we are starting. Question number 2. Who wins this weekend's rematch between the Kansas City Current and the Orlando Pride?
Oh man, I love that we're gonna do a pick in here because we didn't have like picks in our rundown. But I'm ready for a shakeup, man. And Kansas City seemed super peeved / motivated by that loss that they suffered to Orlando, and they've kind of gone in a little bit of a spiral since suffering that loss. They got to kind of climb back in. So I hope this is the upset. I'm gonna go with the Current. Say they're gonna bring
Ooh,
it.
I like that pick. Orlando Pride at home at Inter and Co. It's just
Tough.
too good, Sandra. You can't
Tough.
beat them. I'm sticking with
Tough.
the Pride on this one.
I
I am.
respect it.
Okay. Is NC Courage's away curse broken with their recent win over San Diego?
Incredible question. Great question. I hope so. Talk about like casting away some demons. They have had it tough on the road. And selfishly, I think I had them picked to go all the way this year, Lisa. So I hope this was the thing that kind of kickstarts them for the remainder of the second half of the season.
There are only 3 away matches left for North Carolina. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they just scrape by and pick up draws on the road. Right. They'll go on the road to take on Racing Louisville, Chicago Red Stars, and then Bay FC. But at home, they have Bay, San Diego, Angel City, and Washington, which honestly could be good. I hope it's snapped for North Carolina because going on the road and not being able to pick up points is mental to me, 100%. And once you can get over that hump, I think you're able to kind of push through and keep grinding. Okay, Mount Rushmore time, Sandra. Who is on the Mount Rushmore of NWSL for you? Now, we are getting these questions live in the chat, so mind us, we haven't had time to think about these answers. Mount Rushmore NWSL for you, Sandra. So the 4 players.
NWSL specifically?
NWSL specifically.
Oh man, it's gonna be tough to think about that because I'm gonna want to throw in some folks that maybe people are like, who? But she's been in our mind, so I'm gonna include Alex Morgan on Mount Rushmore. I'm also actually gonna include Martha as well. She wasn't there at the beginning of NWSL. She came in 2017, but she's such an iconic player, and it is part of her legacy to kind of help build clubs around the world. She has gone and played in multiple leagues, and she's helped kind of sustain things. So I'm also going to include Martha on there. I think in terms of maybe 2 other spots, I would argue.
Sam Kerr.
I'm gonna say she has the record right now, right? I'm gonna go Sam Kerr, and I also really want a keeper though on there as well. And honestly, I think I'm gonna maybe go with Jane Campbell.
I was going to say Jane. As soon as you said
Like,
keeper, I was like Jane Campbell. She's
like
been
one keeper, one club, has one goalkeeper of the year. I'm gonna
Who
put her
was
on
the
this
first
one.
person you put on your Mount Rushmore?
I put Morgan and Martha. So
Okay.
yeah, I
What
think you
about
need a
Christine
couple of those.
Sinclair?
Yeah, sure. That could be on yours.
Okay, she'll be on mine. As someone that's played for the same club since the inaugural season, I
Yeah,
think there's something legendary about having Christine Sinclair on that Mount Rushmore.
100%.
Okay, we got this question on YouTube. Can you explain the number 9 role versus what a false 9 is? So this one is all about formations, and there's a lot going in. So depending if you're playing in a 4-4-2 with 2 strikers, that means you have 2 nines. A number 9 is like just the striker. You know how in basketball every position has a number? The same goes in soccer. Your keeper is the 1, your striker is the 9, your outside backs are a 4-5, your center backs are 2-3, the 6
I'm
is
like,
the defensive midi, the 8 and the 10 are also midfielders, and 7 and 11 are the wide wingers in a 4-3-3. So it all depends on the formation. I'm trying not to get too in the weeds here with
I'm
this,
gonna
but I
say, is it too
love.
silly? Is it too silly to almost compare it to like we use like dual sixes a lot? It's like, oh, maybe you could say they're dual nines. Like,
Right. So it depends. A number 9 role, like a very traditional one that kind of Alex Morgan played specifically with the US, was a stretching 9. She looked to get in behind back line. She looked to push the back line of defenses. She was like a lone striker. She could play in a dual 9 up top in a 4-4-2. And then a false 9 is the way that we see Mia Fischel play at the US international level, because she is the striker, but she drops a lot deeper into the midfield. So they call it a withheld 9, a false 9 that drops into the midfield. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I need a whiteboard and like full tactics. I'm putting on my coach's hat. I miss
yeah,
coaching.
there you
Um,
go.
okay, interesting one. I like that one. And any of the tactical questions, I've got you. We have one about Emma Hayes and Alex Morgan, Sandra. Do you think if Emma Hayes would have known that Alex Morgan was retiring after this year, that she would have included Morgan on the Olympic roster?
No, no, I do not. I just think that, we've talked so much about this. We've said repeatedly that Emma Hayes was hired to take this program to into new heights, but also maybe a little bit of a different direction that includes not necessarily redefining the culture, but maybe integrating some things that people aren't used to. And one of those things is making bold decisions, maybe really hard decisions. And I don't know if there was maybe a harder decision for coach and player to kind of go through that conversation. You're talking about someone who was the face of the program for a decade. And now you have to have the conversation in the phone call that they are not going to make that final major roster. And I think everything that we know now, I'm sure those conversations were had between the appropriate parties, Morgan and her team, and Emma Hayes and the coaching staff. So I'm sure there was some layer of knowledge about the eventual trajectory of Alex Morgan's career. So I don't think that would have made that much of a difference going into that Olympic Games, and I don't think having that knowledge now would have affected that type of different outcome for the roster either, because of who Emma Hayes is and what she's trying to do with this national team.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Morgan would have gone. It was a decision that Emma Hayes had to make outside of emotions, and taking someone to the Olympics when you're in the quest to win gold. You don't you don't do that as a farewell tour for a player, even at the caliber of Alex
Yeah.
Morgan. Now, I will say, if Alex Morgan didn't announce her retirement and wasn't expecting her second child, I believe she would have been back on a US roster for friendlies, for goodbyes, for anything like that. I believe that firmly, even if she had decided that she was going to retire, because you could make a friendly roster bigger, right?
Yeah.
You could have a specific game to say goodbye to Alex Morgan. Everything changes now that she's pregnant, right? And I don't know if we'll
Yeah.
ever get that. We won't, probably. So it's very interesting.
The
Again, we're
timing.
talking
Yeah.
about Alex Morgan. I love it. I
Here we
actually
are.
love it, Sandra. Okay, final question. Again, if you have questions for Sandra and I, let us know on YouTube in the comment section. Leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts with your question, or hit us up on socials at Attacking Third, and we're going to answer them. This question is about rookie midfielder Croy Bethune. Should Washington Spirit rookie Croy Bethune still win Rookie of the Year despite missing the last 8 games due to injury?
Yes. I look, I believe we're in a longer season this year. It's 26 games. So because of that, I think that once the award voting comes around, at least for determining the finalists, there will be some criteria that needs to be met. There's always that if you vote for a player must have played a certain amount of games during the regular season. Croy Bethune, I think, will have met that threshold. A, and B, what she did in her rookie season was incredible. Is incredible. It is another record that was matched, A, and B, by a rookie doing it in her rookie season. And the fact that she went to an Olympics, came back into the regular season and matched it in a game back, I think is even more incredible. So even for my own conversations, Lisa, amongst colleagues and in spaces, I would be shocked if Croy Bethune doesn't walk away with Rookie of the Year. But I do think it's a fair question because that's a chunk of games and what can happen in this second half of the season, like we've been talking about earlier in the show. So who's going to maybe shake things up there?
10 assists for Croy Bethune, and missing the last 8 games of the season. 100% she's a candidate for Rookie of the Year. I think she should be the Rookie of the Year. However, there are still 7 matches left to play, and there is going to be a big uphill climb for a player to knock Croy Bethune out of the Rookie of the Year spot and to knock her off of the number 1 candidate. I think if there are players that could do it, if we see Raylan Turner, who just got traded to Portland Thorns, go on and make a run. But I just think the impact of Bethune this year has been too big that she is the number 1 candidate for Rookie of the Year. Time will tell, though, right? There's a little bit more time left in the season, but it's going to be a lot to knock Croy Bethune off the top of that pedestal. Okay, this was really fun. Again, if you have questions for us, let us know at Attacking Third on socials, Twitter and Instagram. Hit us up. We want to answer your questions.